you feel like you have something to prove, which is why you're at this top placement in your agency. And, if you own your own business, you have something to prove. You're the man. But the best advice that I can give you is throw away all the distractions and focus on how you can be a better person, a better man, a better whatever it is that you want to be. And I promise you, the rest will come.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And today we are going to talk about more manly stuff because, well, in my opinion, men have it harder than women nowadays. And I think that society is a big part of this. Shane, what do you think?
So I want to go over the stigma of man. I want to talk a little bit about the generations, at least more specifically these last three generations, Gen Alpha, Gen Z, and our generation, the Millennials. So I'm definitely excited for today's episode.
Yeah, we're here to if you ever watched, what was that? Little Rascals. Today we form the He-Man Women Haters Club.
Wow, I haven't seen that movie in so long. That's awesome.
Right?
It's a great quote.
But seriously, we don't hate women. We're not forming the He-Man Women Haters Club. But we are going to talk about how society has been a lot more interesting, especially in terms of men. I think we've even covered a few things on previous episodes because this really is a very big topic of like men and their roles in today's society. But even if you look at like dating statistics, over 80% of the women go for like the top 20% of men. And what's even funnier is the way that there is an elevation in the value or the standards of a lot of these women. It's like, that not all 80% of those women are in the categories or capabilities of having a 20% man, and yet they all want them. And guys have a lot harder of a time of dating even. Shane, did we talk about that one woman who like pretended that she was a guy? Have you ever heard of that?
Well, I definitely had some personal experiences with
not that. Yes. Go back to it. Everybody go back in the episodes. You'll see what he's talking about. But no, there was this woman who like she really believed, she's a big feminist, believed that it's easier to be a man in today's world or modern society, and she basically disguised herself as a guy and did all the things that guys would do. I forgot how long her social experiment was, but she basically said at the end of it, she felt like she wanted to kill herself. She felt like she had no worth. She felt like that society hated her, that everyone was against her, that things were so difficult to do and achieve that it was tough to make friends. It was impossible to date. This was her findings. And from there, she stopped being a diehard feminist. And she wrote this whole great book on it. I'm lost for the name, but I'm sure if any of you listeners are curious about it, you could go Google, just Google that, like woman who became a man or pretended to be a man and wrote a book about it, who was a previous feminist. It's a very specific Google search. I'm sure it will come up.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about this. One, I want to bring up a artist called Dax. There's a song called "To Be a Man," and it's the man's duty, the traditional man's duty, is to provide shelter, is to provide food on the table, is to provide protection, is to serve his country when it's needed. It's almost that's the responsibilities of a man. And men can be replaced. When men die in a relationship, the home stays, the kid stays, the dogs stay, right? Men are replaceable. And I know it's a sad fact, but when you put it as blunt like that and you put some more deeper thought into it, it's entirely true. I'm saying, well, Shane, women can be replaced. It's not the same type of responsibilities. I think that's really what it comes down to for a man is how we act and what's been taught for us, especially in our generation, the millennial generation. That's how we were brought up. And especially generations before us, that's how we were brought up, is the man's duty is to do this, this, and this. This Gen Z generation, who Vin is, kind of talking about as far as, feminists and transvestites and this whole awakening that is, in my opinion, a distraction from society is ridiculous. I really do. If you want to do whatever you want to, say that you are a man or you are a woman, then fine. Why do you have to be public about it? Why do you have to get attention from this? I just don't really understand that aspect. Now, back to the stigmas of being a man and a woman. So, personally, from my outside opinion looking into this, which, I've been married for quite some time now. I've been with my wife since 2011. So, January 2011. So, it's coming up to 15 years, 14 years.
That's it.
And I haven't been in the dating pool for a while. However, I live, with my friends curiously when they come over and they tell me about this dating life. It sounds like a night. And I have a couple of friends who are, confident, they're strong, they have good jobs. When they talk to women, they want a millionaire. Okay. Well, how many percentage of the US population are millionaires? Less than 1%. How many of those people that are millionaires are fit, that have great bodies, that take care of themselves? 1% of that 1% is probably right around there. So these women who have this idea they want to be taken care of, they want a millionaire, they want somebody who looks amazing, and they want everything taken care of. You're talking about, out of the 680 million people, you're talking about less than 1% of 1% of those type of people actually exist. Now, those people, who do you think they're looking for? Do you think they're looking for somebody who works at Starbucks? Do you think they're looking for somebody who is a high-end executive, who is a very strong and independent woman who's worked their way up? No. Do you know what those people are? Do you know what a strong, independent woman, which, by the way, if you are that, great. That's awesome. But you're the man. You're the boyfriend in this relationship. That's what it is. You feel like you have something to prove, which is why you're at this top placement in your agency. And, if you own your own business, you have something to prove. You're the man. No men, especially this 1% of 1%, wants to be with this person, in my opinion.
Shane's cooking.
I think the expectations, and this is where I'm getting at, I think the expectations are out of whack. Now, what men want is somebody, and this is what I call the traditional housewife, somebody who is going to cook, clean, take care of them when they come home. They're going to, look over their family. They want that traditional 1950s housewife. Guys, it's slim pickings out there, right? From what I hear and based off of the information that I hear from other friends, that type of mindset is gone. You have independency out there. You have to learn to deal with that. So you're going to have to evolve and adapt.
Anyways, well, I think to some degree that's true, but also to some degree it's incorrect, because what I come to find, and we've already talked about this, but I'm going to bring it up again because I'm always happy to call out some guys that are highly unreasonable, because there's plenty of women out there that are highly unreasonable, but there's also a lot of stubborn guys that are wildly unreasonable. There are these guys that are not traditional men that want the traditional lives. These are the guys that,
right,
oh, hey, we can't afford for you to stay home, so go to work, and then when you get home, make sure you have dinner ready for me. And then make sure you do all the cleaning because I worked all day and I don't want to clean. And then make sure that you maintain a happy home. And then make sure you're ready to entertain me sexually. And then make sure that, you're also like really considering everything that needs to be done around the house. Like make sure that you stock the shelves and you go grocery shopping. And by the way, I'm going to go play video games once I get home because I'm tired. It's like, that doesn't happen either. Like, or it shouldn't. You don't deserve video games, and you better be a halfway helping guy if you're a halfway traditional man, right? And so to some degree, what I've come to find is that a lot of women can't get into their traditional roles even if they'd like to. It's funny because when my girl quit her job and they were like, "Oh, where are you going to go work?" And she's like, "Oh no, I'm going to go be a stay-at-home mom. My Vin's got the finances for it." And the women, like one of them was the director of the facility, and she's like, "You're so lucky. I wish I could just be home with my kid." And a lot of these women, and here's another fact, right? I've had a lot of high performing women clients. They'd actually prefer that life. They tell me all the time that they're upset that they get that these guys are losers, or these guys don't ever take charge, or they don't ever lead in the relationship, or whatever the case may be. And it's because, to your point, Shane, a lot of them do emasculate these men, but if they're not emasculating the man, they're also headbutting with the more successful man, because they're like, well, my job matters more. And it's like, no, your job doesn't matter more than the successful man if you want to be a stay-at-home woman, right? And so there's a lot of push and pull in these relationship dynamics nowadays. But I can say that there are a lot of successful women that would actually like to take a break, and they don't get the opportunity. So I agree and half disagree for those reasons, that I think there are more women out there that are willing to fulfill the roles. They just mostly don't have those opportunities to do so.
And for those of you that have been watching for a while, you know that, both Vin and I are wives and girlfriends, I should say, not girlfriends, but Vin's girl and my wife.
Shane's got some explaining to do.
Why. It sounded weird coming out of that. My wife and Vin's girlfriend.
That reminds me of my favorite cheers to do. Like when you're out with people, I go, all right, everyone, I got a cheers for
May
us.
they never meet.
Yeah, don't ruin it for the people who've never heard
everybody's heard it. It's like
50. No, nobody's heard. Listen to all you listeners out there. Raise a glass with me. Cheers to our wives and our girlfriends. May they never meet.
I ruined it, but yes, that is a great one. I love that. What I was saying is my wife is a very strong, independent woman. She was career driven. She had no baggage when I first met her. She had her master's degree. She was focused. She knew what she wanted to do and wanted to be when she was in her second grade. You don't find that anymore. You don't find somebody that wanted to be a teacher and help kids learn when she was in the second grade and pushed herself and got a master's degree and no baggage, no kids, like no marriage. Like it was ideal. But now she's a stay-at-home mom. She oversees my two kids. There is no career. And she was exactly happy to transfer and watch the kids and be with them and grow that bonding relationship comparatively to a babysitter or family or whatever it may be, because she had that option. But she needed a man in place to not only take care of the finances, to put a roof over the head, to make sure that food was provided, to make sure that everything was taken care of. And if those women, those high, powerful women that are looking for that, look at those expectations. If you're the CEO of a company, if you make X amount of money, do you think it's going to just be like that? It's tough. I'm saying I got very lucky. I personally think so. Now, I want to make it very, very clear that my wife are 100%, 100%. There's no codependency anywhere in this, that we both give our maximum amount of effort to each other, to our kids, to pretty much everything that we have to. And we know that if we were to split up, God forbid, that we would be okay, that we have our own lives, our own friends. We'd obviously co-parent the kids, but that's how it should be. If you're looking for independency, just know that's what it's going to take. If you're going to be relying on somebody else to do these things, I personally don't think it's going to work, in my opinion. Now, being a stay-at-home mom is a job. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's not an expectation, but my expectations is the kids need to be handled. Me realizing now with a 3-year-old and a 10-month-old, these kids are a lot of work. So I need to make sure that the kids are taken care of, number one. They're fed. They're played with. They're not just sitting in front of a TV while she sits on her phone, which doesn't happen, thank God. Like, that's my number one priority. If she has time, which thankfully she does the laundry. She'll cook. She packs. It's everything that I could ever want. But she treats that as a job that she's giving her 100% attention to. Do I expect that? Never. I don't. I don't think I should. I don't think it's my place. And the reason why is I personally think that's more dominance. And that's why I wanted to be on the other end of the foot here. Because I'm the man, I have expectations to do this, this, and this, right? Because she's a woman, her expectations are to take care of the kid and to take care of me the way that, she has been. But I don't see it as 51-49. I don't see it as 50-50. I see it as 100. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, because at the end of the day, both people have a role to fulfill. There is 100 because they're two different roles. They're two different jobs. So if it was 51-49, it wouldn't make any damn sense, because that would imply that you guys are splitting something, right? Like that would imply that she has a job and you have a job, and she takes one kid and you take one kid and you split the finances. And
I meant more mindset, like, and
okay.
that's what I've seen in traditional ways is I make the money, so I make the rules. That shit doesn't work. If you want
No.
a healthy relationship, you need to set those expectations that we are equals when it's mind, body, and soul, and this is what it's going to be. It can never be, I bring the bills home to the table, so you have this lifestyle, you're welcome, so you owe me this, 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 and this. No, I don't believe in that personally.
Oh yeah, I work with some of those clients.
Right.
And
It's old school.
oh man, it's not only old school, but it's so detrimental. Like the history in their relationships, because it is old school and they've been together a while, are just they're just like terrible, man. And those
However,
relations.
there is relationships like that, and there
Oh yeah.
is guys who want that. I have a good friend of mine who is a big Christian, and his wife has only been a stay-at-home mom, and he's a pretty big, executive that makes, a good living, $200,000-300,000 a year, and that's their role, and they accept their roles. But it is definitely, if I'm going to do this, this is what I'm going to do. You're going to do this, 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 and this. It works for them. So who am I to say it doesn't? But that's not how my life works. I don't want to be stepping on my wife and saying, you're not equal to me.
I don't know if it fully works for anyone. You know how sometimes people say, "Oh, no, this is good for me," but if you actually like sit down and analyze their life and their emotions or whatever is actually going on, probably 9.9 out of 10 times it's not actually like, "Oh, it works for them."
Sure.
I
And
think
how well do we really know looking outside in?
right, and I think the reality is that it works for people to a capacity, but it doesn't work optimally.
Right.
And what I mean by that is there are some people that even I've met, like one of my former clients, a very interesting person, and she was like, "Yeah, she's like, I don't care if a guy wants to take care of me, great. I would love for that to happen. And like he doesn't even have to do anything. He doesn't have to be present. He doesn't have to do this, that, or the other thing." I'm like, "Why is that good?" She's like, "Oh, I just want a penthouse to live in."
That's my other point too. Those
Okay.
types of women have expectations of a fictional reality.
Yeah.
Like, and that's my point. Do you think that 1% of 1% who's got the six pack, who makes over $1 million a year, who is financially stable, do you think they're looking for women like that? I don't think
No.
so.
Because here's the thing. Somebody especially in this day and age, the mindsets and the way that we think are so different that I'm pretty sure most guys would actually like a relationship that is interactive to some degree. I can't
I
I
think so.
can't really sit here and say that most guys would be like, I want to be in this one-sided relationship where I just dictate everything and I'm never home. Like that sounds
That's
stupid.
my point. It's like a whip dog type of thing. Like, I'm going to do this, 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 this. And that is the whole mindset. I'm the alpha machismo. My wife's going to do what I tell her to do. I'm like, that sounds terrible.
I think it does sound terrible because I've seen these relationships enough to know that they don't actually work in the long run. There's going to be
That's
a divorce, there's going to be cheating, there's going to be
exactly. 100%.
something. There's always going to be something,
And
because no
that's,
matter how much people say it works, it doesn't. It just
I,
never does.
I think that's very important to say as far as the divorce or the aspect of cheating. If you're that type of person and you want that type of woman, don't marry her, in my opinion. Marriage, in my eyes, it's one and done, it's forever, and you need an equal partner to have conversations with. You need to. You need to be on an equal wavelength. You need to have a woman who is going to make you strive to be a better man, to be a better business owner, to be a better whatever it is. My wife strives me to do things more. She has my back. When I want to do investments, it's not just, sure, go ahead. We talk about things. You need somebody who's going to make you a better person. I I can't talk enough great things about my wife. She
Yeah.
is amazing. She is the reason why I'm here today and the success today. I definitely attribute some of that to her.
Well, I would have to say your mom is probably the reason you're here today, but I get what you're saying.
Thank you for the literal tense of it. But yes, absolutely. My mom, another great woman.
I mean, that's really the interesting thing about today's world. If we bring it back to the original point here of today's talk, is there is so much need in these dynamics. It is harder for men, in my opinion, because men are under a lot more scrutiny in today's world. Men have somewhat impossible standards that they can't meet to even get the most basic of women, because let's be honest, it's not like the 10 out of 10 women that are demanding this. I mean, they are, right? But they could do that because they're 10 out of 10s. It's also going down as far as the women who are like 3 out of 10s that are like, I want the guy that makes multiple six figures and is a great provider and will let me be the stay-at-home mom and do whatever I want. It's like, you are a 3, ma'am. Right. You need to get your ass into gear and figure out where you belong in the pecking order. And a lot of these women have this crazy inflated ego today, because now in today's society, especially because, you know, everything is so strained. And of course, because women were in a different state years ago or however long ago, right? That now it's, oh, we need to empower women. And women empowerment has gone quite far in the opposite direction of what it's actually meant to do. And now it's just like you have these women out here who are wild expectations that are unrealistic for who they actually are themselves. Like we were talking about this, what, in one of the other episodes, right, Shane? Where it's like, just because you could cook, clean, or have sex doesn't make you a valuable woman. Because guess what? If I have enough money, I could pay for all of that. Literally all of that. I don't need a woman for any of that. It would be nice to have, but that doesn't matter in the long scheme of things, because I could do that with any woman. I could pay for any service to do either of those. So like, what's the actual value you bring to a relationship? And most women are just like, well, I could cook, clean, and have good sex. And it's like, no, that doesn't fly. That's nothing for us. So I think ultimately, like, being a man in today's world is, if you're not over six figures, if you're not over 6 feet, if if you're not willing to cater to the woman's every need, if you're not driving a nice car, if you don't have a big enough house, like, you're a loser. You're going to be unworthy of anything, unworthy of love, unworthy of friendships, unworthy of most of anything that society has to offer. And that's why there's so many vices that most men are addicted to nowadays. Like, look at the gaming community. I love gaming, I do. But when you look at it, it's a major vice for a lot of men. Right. But why? Because it's their greatest form of achievement. Because they get rejected everywhere else, but they get these great achievements for gaming heavily, or gambling, or porn. Most guys can't get women nowadays. Again, the standards are skewed. I mean, look at the data of dating apps and all that other crap. Like, most guys will go without messages, even relatively good looking guys. But women, when I talk to women that are on dating apps, they have thousands of messages. Most guys, even myself, when I was on a dating app, I barely would get messages. But so many women are getting hundreds of thousands of messages. And it's like, all right, so guy's going to go watch porn now, because that's where he's going to get his affection from. And I find that men are struggling the most with vices, because men are the most rejected in today's society. Even workplaces are shifting. There's more women in college. The newer leadership positions are emerging with more women as well. We can't deny that society has shifted, and I'm not saying it's for the worse, but I am saying that men have it harder nowadays. And so there's a lot of things to consider. As men, we need to be very considerate of one another. We need to uplift each other. As women, you could just be kinder to men. That would probably make the world of difference to somebody out there. And ultimately, like, we need to really just focus on being those high value men, whatever that might look like. Maybe it doesn't mean $100,000. Maybe it just means being a really, really good man. And it'll be hard to find a woman, but eventually when you do, she will love you and truly be devoted to you for that.
I want to talk more on that last statement that you just said, because my grandfather, I grew up without a dad at all. My mom raised me, and then my stepdad came into the picture when I was 13. So my grandfather, very strong man, and he was in the Navy, and was in the submarine corps for 20 plus years. He went to prison, unfortunately, for 4 years, but once again, very alpha type of guy. Then he became an architect, self-made man. I could talk about him on a whole other podcast for at least a half hour. Anyways, he was my idol. He gave me a lot of good tips when I was younger. And the tip is really, really relevant. And I told this to many people and nobody listens to me. And I wish they would. I wish they transition their whole lifestyle into just this little bit of advice. And it's, forget everything else. Just focus on you. If you focus on you internally and externally, meaning you get off the dating apps, you get off of social media, you start focusing on what's important and what matters to you, the rest will come. The money will come, The girls will come. Screw everything else. Everything is a distraction. Work on self-improvement. Work on mindset. Work on things that, and listen to people that are in the situation that you want to be in and get their advice. But the best advice that I can give you is throw away all the distractions and focus on how you can be a better person, a better man, a better whatever it is that you want to be. And I promise you, the rest will come.
Shane's correct. And in fact, that's one of the funnier goals that one of me and my clients just basically committed to was, he realized he was getting distracted. He was going out, he was meeting women, he was trying to do this, he was trying to do that. And we just said, like, dude, narrow down. No more women, off all dating apps, delete your social media. We found a few other personal things for him to cleanse in his life. And it's just, let's go into monk mode. Let's really focus on your mindset. Let's focus on your finances. Let's focus on growing your business. Let's do all of that. And as you evolve into that man that you know you're capable of becoming, you will have everything you want. You'll have the friends you look for. You'll have the women you want, because the ultimate capability or the ultimate truth is that you can only achieve what you are. Life and the whole world is a mirror. If you are struggling and internally with life, business, whatever, your other problems will always be in front of you because it's just reflecting what you are. So Shane, I absolutely love that. We're going to end it on that. And next week, we'll talk about something else that's really great. So stay tuned.
We should probably
as always,
conversation. I think we're going to talk more about this kind of stuff, definitely in the future, maybe on the next episode. But this is such a great topic.
Yeah, I think it is important, and we should be a voice for men because men need it. So, as always, friends, family, admirers, please like, share, subscribe, comment, let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you agree, disagree, or whatever the case is. We'd love to hear from you no matter what you got to say. And we'll see you next time. I'm Vin.
And I'm Shane. See you guys.